Hello, my fellow patriots. This is Alex with Disabled Vets Perspective. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of DVP News. I've got Conservative Patriots. See, Margot. See, you guys jumped in here. Gary Holland. Let's see, Blue is also in here. I think I got everybody there. I want to introduce my guest for the show today. What a surprise. Let's introduce Miss Belinda. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Black Spring with Autumn. How you doing? Jeff B. Good to see you. Going to be a few headlines today. Donnie Newman. Good to see you. Start out by saying that Pete is dealing with some family issues, so you guys need to send some prayers out for him. I don't know what's going on, but I told him we'll be praying for him, make sure everything goes well. Deidre, how you doing?
I found it.
Anyway, so really, I didn't know I lost it.
I was having Randy looking for my iPad. Here it is.
No, I thought you were talking about my brain. I never knew I even had one, but that's all right. Dirty Rotten Imbecile, how you doing? So I have a few articles pulled up. I think Belinda does as well. It's been an interesting news month or a couple of months, but I tell you what, I am going to give you the privilege of starting out today's show with some piece of news that's probably totally irrelevant to what's going on in daily life.
Yes.
No problem.
I just saw Como on the TV, and he's like one of my little nemesis. He's a train wreck that I just have to keep watching for some reason. And he picked on people from Iowa. He said that the truck drivers from Iowa are so, he didn't use these words, uneducated, but they're so afraid of getting the coronavirus that they won't bring in shipments to the city. You know, those poor Iowans. I could have just reached through my TV and slapped that guy. You know, if they're having trouble with truckers wanting to come into the city and not being exposed, why don't they set up a central area, drop your rigs at the state line, drop your trailers at the state line, and have your state truckers pick it up and move stuff in for your people? The guy's condescending tone and the way, you know, it's one of those farmer comments that who talked about the farmer? Was it Giuliani? No. Bloomberg. You know, it doesn't take anything to be a farmer, and all you got to do is dig a hole and plant a seed. Well, that's what this Como's attitude was. Is, you know, those Iowans that don't know anything, those hayseeds, don't want to, you know, bring their trailers in, and it's insulting. And he wants to dictate how Trump is going to encourage the rest of the country to do things as far as isolation, self-isolation, control of people's movements.
Right.
And I'm sorry that they give him so much TV time. I don't see the Iowa governor on, you know, mainstream media talking.
There is a motive behind this. I've been hearing the rumors jumping up in the mill that they're looking for a replacement for Biden, and they're talking about Como stepping in to take over the DNC position to become president. So everything has a motive. Everything's got something underlying, and his little fake, I've been working with Trump crap after he insults him in every third sentence before this. It's all part of the show so that they can make him look like the good guy in all of this and run him up for president. But I used to drive truck, and I'll tell you, I've been into New York City twice with a rig, and I'm going to tell you now, I don't give a damn about delivering products into the city, you know, because of the virus. What I would be saying is that the truck drivers absolutely hate New York, because it's just about impossible to drive around down there when you have a 53-foot trailer up your ass. And then if you do end up in a position where you have to block a little bit of traffic so that you can back into a facility or something, you got people flipping you off, honking, driving up on the sidewalk to go around you, coming right up against your truck so that you can't move. You know, it's psycho over there. So good on them. I'd say if Como doesn't want people in the city that don't have the intelligence, then I would say, okay, we'll just drop our boxes right outside the city line, block the highways with them, park them on the shoulders, and then turn around and take off. Say, okay, you can figure out how to get them into your city, you ass. I mean, people
Yeah,
have to stand up to this crap because they are insulting and condescending to every American that doesn't follow their ideology or bow to their rule. And this is going to stop.
yeah, because let me tell you, the people from Iowa are going to far this self-isolation a whole lot better than New York City New Yorkers, because they live in a
Right.
place where they can be prepared. And these self-centered, selfish New York City people and New York City governor, uh, they're just such a small segment of people, but they really seem to consume a lot of TV time and their opinions hold a lot of weight. And I don't know who decided that that should be that way. Because all you have to do is flip the switch and decide that it's not going to be that way. But well, maybe he is going to be put
Right.
in for Dirty Joe. I don't know. He would get the votes. I know he would get a whole lot of people's votes. He's young. He's well spoken. He has, fresh ideas. They're the same old tired stuff, just wrapped up in different verbiage. But I could see that
Right.
being a problem for the Republicans.
Right. Well, I don't see him as much of a threat. Hello, Propus, Dangerous Freedom. I saw you guys jump in here. Gary, I said hey to you already, I think. Hi again, anyway. Um, Dirty Rotten Imbecile came in here. Let's see, Eric Chenault and Six Stringer. Welcome, you guys. Yeah, if people haven't noticed, Michael Lowe, good to see you. There is an issue with the conservative states versus the psychotic liberal states. Uh, we can see exactly what's going on. In the liberal states, they're stopping the NICS system so that people can't purchase guns because if you can't get your background check, you can't get your gun. Therefore, it's a roundabout way of interrupting the Second Amendment. Plus, the rules that they're putting in place, in some cases, have nothing to do with a virus. Um, Examples like in California, they've got some mayor saying that people can't even stand in their yard and talk to neighbors because
What?
that's going against their. Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. It's so over the top. The liberal run communities are using this as an opportunity to put in their complete and total dictatorship. And then, I mean, Florida, we know Florida because we are here. Ron DeSantis is putting out a blanket statement and then saying, but I'm going to let the mayors and the city leaders decide how they're going to implement this program. So it's still being done with some thought, but these dictatorships are, they're starting up. And also, the governor of
Sorry.
Nevada has signed an executive order. That's all right. It's a dog. Dogs will be dogs. Uh, he signed an executive order out of Nevada stating that the chloroquine will not be allowed in his state because of the rhetoric that's coming out. The media is making it sound like a deadly drug, even though it's been out for since the 40s, maybe.
Malaria medicine? Are you talking about the malaria
Military
medicine?
uses it. Right. Right. He's put an executive order in place to stop that medication from coming into his state. And then I think it was Massachusetts. I have to double check, but it's another female governor that literally threatened the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies, saying that they will not prescribe this medication to COVID-19 patients. So the whole thing just stinks. Like they don't think there's enough death. They can't get their narrative across because not enough people have died. So they need to put more restrictions on treatment so that they can guarantee their death rate go up so they can get their narrative across that they've been trying to push.
That's crazy. That's
Huey
not making
Cobra
any
and
sense.
Freebird
It's
over here on
malaria
DLive.
medicine. It's not like it's some, not tried and true thing. It has few side effects for few people, but we've all taken it. I mean, it's not something. And if it works, it works. That doesn't make any sense. See, that's where, and see if that's the case, if that is true, that's as far as people coming to Florida. We're having this mass exodus to Florida of Northerners wanting to come here.
Right.
And now DeSantis is saying, if we
Right.
see you cross into Nassau County, which is where on 95, where you come into the state, if we see your tag, your New York tag, New Jersey, whatever, you're going to have to self quarantine for 14 days, which makes sense because they have so many cases there. But who's going to enforce that?
Right.
Who's going to make sure that these weirdos just running out of New York because the truckers won't come and deliver them a Frappuccino or something aren't going to come here and start coughing over everybody?
Right. Yeah.
I don't.
Chrysler Imperial and Plays in the Dirt. Good to see you guys.
I see somebody commenting.
Yeah, I
on
agree.
here.
But go ahead.
With the letter C for a name, the guy in Arizona
Yep,
did
that's
not take the drug.
See him from here.
Yeah, they took a fish tank cleaner or something. They
Right.
died. It was
Yeah,
a couple
because it
that
had a
died. And they
small-
took.
They took an aquarium cleaner that happened to have liquoroquine as one of the many ingredients in it, but mostly it was a detergent. It was pretty dangerous stuff. Michael St. Jude, Governor Sisolak in Nevada was voted in by Dems coming from California. I'm not surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was corruption involved because they're already trying to set up corruption for 2020 using the COVID-19 bill to sneak it in there. It's not going to be clean on this next election. It's going to be dirty. But one thing that I do see is that part of the reason they are pushing so hard to keep people in their homes and to keep this fear alive is because they realize that they are completely outnumbered when the people get pissed. So they're trying to intimidate everybody into submission so that they go into their house like good little children and they stay there because they know that when the people reach their limit and they've decided they're sick and tired of this crap, that there isn't a cop and there isn't a military big enough that is going to keep the people from doing what they want to do when they've reached their limit. And the problem with this is the Democrats that are running, the liberals that are running these districts are pushing really hard to control the people. With in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that part of that is they want the people to reach the limit because one of their best case scenarios with this whole thing would be if they can create mass unrest, get the people fighting each other and, destroying the streets and all that. Then they'll get their Emergency Powers Act implemented and they'll get really a lot more control than what they have now. But the problem I have now is that when they push the people to that limit, when they're taking away their Second Amendment, taking away their First Amendment, we can no longer freely assemble. We can't protest the bills they're jamming through in the dark right now because we can't go and stand in protest at the city meetings and stuff. They're going to do this, and they're trying to create a civil war. And I don't think they're going to get their dream. I think that when they push as hard as they're pushing, when the people finally hit that point, I think that the elected officials are going to have to leave the country because I just don't see this continuing like it is. I think people are going to reach a point where it's just enough is enough is enough.
Well, with all that being said, do you think do you think that this was intentional? The COVID-19 was intentional?
I absolutely believe it was intentional. Way too much evidence of that. And here's the thing: a year ago, when I started this channel, when I was watching how things were going with President Trump, I was telling everybody there has to be a massive event before 2020 because nothing was sticking. So when I said massive event, I was saying I don't know what the hell it's going to be, but it's got to be massive if it's going to get the attention of the people. And lo and behold, this is pretty massive, and the people are paying attention. So, yeah, I believe this is a definite plan.
Now, pardon?
Oh, just I get call outs from the backstage to check out conversations in the chat. Uh, check out Lisa Haven's video on COVID-19, no more severe than common flu, Dr. Fauci says. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Dr. Fauci too.
Well, it's
That's a
highly
little weasel.
contagious.
Uh,
Let me, whatever this is it's so easily transmitted as opposed to the flu. I mean, this really spreads quickly. It's, if what they're saying is true, stays on surfaces for a long time. I have a lot of people, my daughter included, in working in hospitals, and this is very contagious. I mean, and that's from the frontline people working
yeah.
there day in and day out.
Well,
It's very contagious.
right. The death tolls and everything were inflated to ridiculous levels to create initial fear. But now several of the people that have been talking about the astronomical death tolls have actually backed off of them a little bit. So they're losing their narrative. They're losing their grip. And yeah, I think it's a nasty disease, extremely contagious. But I think that they're going to find that we're going to we're going to reach herd immunity a lot faster than they were hoping. That's why they wanted to stop they didn't want him to stop the flow of people. They didn't want borders closed. They didn't want planes stopped because they needed this thing to spread and get a grip a lot better. Just like I can't think of her name, but it's a woman that is involved with the health administration for New York. She found out that that DeSantis was quarantining New Yorkers that were fleeing New York, and she says,
Right.
"No, just go out in the public and do your thing. Don't worry about it."
I
Yeah,
didn't see that at all.
they
Yeah,
want it to
because
spread.
he's asking those people to self quarantine, but I don't see them self quarantining if they're running out of their state to get away from being quarantined. I don't I don't see that happening.
Right.
And
Well, even Como
that's,
said that would happen. He said as soon as we lock down the city, people will just leave. And yeah,
yeah,
it's the rich bastards that are causing this thing to spread anyway
I
because they're
saw
being
that.
told to stay put. They're going, "Oh, I have the money and I don't have to stay anywhere." But,
Yeah.
it doesn't help. I mean,
Yeah, because the
people could
lower
be
the numbers
inconvenienced
on
for a little
this,
while to get a grip.
like with anything, the lower the numbers,
Go ahead.
the higher the death rate will seem, but once you start getting into like with the flu, the millions of people, your death rate drops because the exposure has gone up so much. And so I'm really on the fence with this. I'm on the fence. I don't know. I don't know, because as they
Well,
test more people, like
this,
here in Florida, all of a sudden we have more cases. Well, by God, that's because you just tested more people. We had no testing 2 weeks ago, and now you're
right.
testing people. So of course we have more
Yeah.
cases. So I don't
And the
know.
media loves that.
Yeah. And it's trying to keep
Yeah.
everything in perspective. And that's where I lose it.
Right. Um, Plays in the dirt over here says one of my friends put a roommate on bedroom arrest because she has a sore throat. She said she'd call the authorities if she came out on MSM, watches MSM 24/7. Yeah, so that woman's infected in the brain. But
Yeah.
here's that, going on to that subject. Um, the the worst thing about this whole ordeal is how easily one human will turn on another. They create the atmosphere of complete fear, and then they get people to say, like the brown shirts of Germany, if your neighbor's coughing, you should make a
Yeah.
phone call.
Yeah.
So, and then if you go to a restaurant, you go, well, clear your throat or whatever. Everybody hits the floor like a terrorist attack just happened, and you got police called, and it's crazy how people will eat each other during an event like this instead of coming together. They will turn on each other in a minute, and that's what the cabal lives for, to control the people and get them to eat each other instead of worrying about what they're doing in the background, which is trying to destroy the world and take complete and total control.
Well, yeah, because like
Hello, Tigger.
this bill that they're trying to pass, I don't even know what's going on there. I don't get what the dude from Kentucky is trying to do. I don't know. I don't know why during a crisis time, why there isn't a law that says no pork will be attached to these bills. These are straight up stimulus bills or to, whatever. But when there's a crisis, they should not be allowed to throw in their bridge and their new museum and all
Right.
this other crap when when it's a crisis for the whole country. And I don't know why Trump is even
Well,
letting
all of those.
that happen.
Uh, well, the problem is he's not the end all be all. There's still bureaucracy that has to take place underneath him. And if he did do the Wartime Powers Act or declare the Emergency Powers Act, then immediately he would be ridiculed for being a dictator and taking away the control of the other parts of the country. But all of those programs, all of those museums and the endowment of the arts and all those other things are all part of the government mandated racketeering. Those are the programs where the government invests billions of dollars that comes out of the House of Representatives because they control the purse. And then the people that are elected officials have in these things, and they get kickbacks from those programs. So they send it to the endowment of the arts. The endowment of the arts sends it back to the representatives in the form of campaign finance or whatever. But either way, it comes right back to them. So what they're doing is they gave themselves a 25% pay raise in the House in the same bill, but they also padded up their personal piggy banks by sending these billions to their endowment programs.
Right, and that's why I think that there should be, I'm not for more laws all the time, but when something this ridiculous has happened, this is like a free for all with money, with my money. I don't
Right.
mind helping out my fellow person. I do mind building your bridge and giving you your art center and funding your whatever BS thing that your brother once funded. I don't think that should be, I think it's criminal.
Right.
I think it's absolutely criminal.
Have we found anything that's done within our uh, administration that isn't criminal? I mean, it just seems like everything nowadays goes against the Constitution, which by default makes it criminal. So I don't know. Like you say, it's a free for all. Everybody's just throwing the Constitution out, and one state is challenging another state. Oh, I'm going to make it a mandatory 15-day lockdown. And then the next state goes, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to make it 20. It's like, who can be the most tyrannical at this point is what I'm seeing. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, and we are just here to
Thank you for the
work
ice
and pay
cream, Propus, and
taxes.
Freebird. Thanks for the lemon. Well, yeah, our labor is their backbone, and
Yeah.
we are slaves to the grind.
Yeah, we provide them the opportunity to play these games. That's all it is. We are providing them the opportunity to play games by working at the jobs, by paying the taxes, by, living in subdivisions and, buying little houses and having oh, see, I'll go on a tirade here. Let me stop.
Yep. Oh, please go on a tirade.
No,
People
no,
love
no,
that
no,
stuff.
no,
It makes you feel better too.
no, that's okay.
You could give 150 million people 13,000 with this $2 trillion bill. Yeah, I know it's crazy. They say here's your 1,200, but we'll take a 25% pay increase on our 150,000 a year paycheck. So I don't think those numbers quite add up.
See, and I don't
I
get
mean,
that. You can
25% of
vote yourself a
100,000,
raise.
25,000.
Hey, everybody, you think we deserve a raise? Sure. Click. Yeah. That should be my job to
And that's the
decide
only time they get
if you get a
unanimous
raise.
votes.
Right? Everyone agrees. But we got
There's
little
never an
restaurant owners here that are not taking salaries to make sure that that their staff have some money coming in. But these assholes are going to give themselves a 25% raise. Is that legitimate? Is that confirmed? That really
right.
happened? That I mean they that
Oh
really
yeah, it's in
happened.
the
They gave
bill.
themselves
It's in the COVID emergency package. So let's see, 25 would be $37,000 a year that they're going to increase their salary, but they're giving the American people a one-time payment of $1,200 per adult in the household. So
wow.
yeah, that
Hold me
math
back.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's just part of the whole screw the American people and take away their power and become the ultimate control. Let's see here. Michael St. Jude says, I know the right thing to do when the lefties come for answers as they're starting to waken, but I'm starting to feel jaded. They called me paranoid when I was a prepper. Now they call me selfish for being a prepper. You can't win.
Yeah.
You just gotta smile and wave. Have a nice day, have a good day.
I'm
That's
getting some
all you can do.
talking, Alex. I'm getting some talking.
Oh,
Is there a fold over?
hey. No, it's Lisa on the phone.
Oh,
Now she's
okay.
gonna.
I didn't. Sorry. It's really
Oh,
loud in
it's
these
okay.
earbuds. It's really
Good
loud
thing.
in these earbuds. That's all.
You're not still getting it, are you?
No. Nope.
Oh,
Nothing there.
okay. You can turn your master volume on your computer down. You don't have to sit there and have your eyes crossed every time I say P words or S words.
No, it doesn't bother me. Just the two voices. It was just hard to.
Well, you
Pick out what you were
usually have
saying.
3 voices in your head minimum, so I don't know why
I
this is so
know.
unusual.
I know. It's because it's nice outside and I've been working out in the yard. So my voices are tired.
All right. Well,
I'm gonna have to
I've
close
got
this down
some
for a second,
news.
Alex. I'm gonna close my screen a little bit. Alicia texted me. Let me text her back real quick, okay?
Yeah, just drop out. And I'll drop you to the bottom, and I'll bring you up when you wave at me.
Okay, perfect. Thank
you. All right. So let's listen to some of the or talk about some of the things that are actually going on in the news, because of course I've got to give some news, or the show as a whole misidentification. If you make more than 75,000 a year, you don't get the stimulus money, though, right? No, actually, once you get to 75,000 or 150,000 as a couple, there's a prorated amount that steps down, and you will get something. But I think it's 199,000 is the threshold where you would get nothing. But yeah, I mean, you can make your 75,000 or more, but you're going to get a prorated amount. Hello, 12B. Good to see you. All right. Yeah, of course, page unresponsive because the internet's being throttled back. Huey Cobra, appreciate that lemon. And Gunner, Grandma, hey, appreciate that lemon too. Thank you guys. Um, Dan Crenshaw destroys Joe Biden after bogus science argument against Trump on Wuhan virus response. Well, let me make sure that I don't. Okay, she's on the phone. I'll finish reading this one and then I'll get her back up here. To say that Joe Biden's presidential campaign has been a dumpster fire over the last several weeks would be an understatement. Absolutely. The live interviews he's done have not gone well. He's been schooled by journalists on how to properly cough in the middle of a live segment. Biden also recently did a virtual happy hour that turned into a disaster. On top of that, his shadow briefings have been a mess, and now he's been hit with a sexual assault allegation from one of his former Senate staffers. You'd think the best way for him to communicate with supporters would be on social media, where tweets can be crafted and fine-tuned, and pre-recorded video segments can be paint him in a more flattering light. But that's not to be either. On Thursday, Biden took to the Twitter machine to try the science argument against Trump, saying if elected president, that he would listen to the experts and heed their advice, like President Trump is doing. These remarks did not go over well with Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas, who tweeted out a few inconvenient reminders about Biden's stance on Trump's China's travel ban. Crenshaw says, you also stated as recently as last week that restricting travel from China was a bad idea. Scientists disagree with him. Experts agree it saved lives. If you were president, we would be in a much worse position to combat coronavirus than we are today. So I believe that was a two-handed half spin around slam dunk on Biden, and she's back. Or is she back? Are you back?
I'm back. Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay. Eagle Talon, how you doing? Now, I was just talking about Dan Crenshaw and the fact that he just did a 100 360 wraparound bitch slap of Joe Biden. And what do you think of what the hell is going on with Joe Biden lately?
I don't.
Oh,
Joe Biden, to hold his own little press conferences and to give his opinion on the coronavirus and what the country should be doing. This dude has been in office, the whole time I've been alive? Okay. I'm 54 years old. He's been in office like 55 years. He's done squat. He's done nothing. I don't care what the guy says. He doesn't accomplish anything. He has no pull. He has no weight. He's a good old boy. One of those madmen from the 70s. And I have no opinion on Biden. He's just useless.
Well, he's made himself fabulously wealthy, so we should be happy about that.
Oh, we did that by letting this corruption go on and letting this graft that these elected officials end up being able to create for themselves. That's our fault. But obviously, we haven't had any control over what they do since, the second or third president. We've had no say in it. We just think we do. Sorry.
Right. Well, hopefully that changed. But I think that after we get to the other side of whatever this is that we're going through, I expect that there won't be a lot of coming back. I think some things that have changed now, they've kind of gotten a kick out of their newfound powers, and I think that some of the things that we took for granted in the past are going to be a thing of the past completely. And,
for example,
I worry about that. I know we're going into a new way of doing things. Well, some of the restrictions, like I could see them putting permanent caps on gatherings to try to cut down on potential protests and stuff like that. The gun bans that they put into place, I could see them just. Well, everything that is being done has already been backed by an executive order, but nothing had been used yet. So, yeah, I mean, it's all there. They're just acting on it. But that's why I say once they've acted on it, it's easier to lose it than to get it back. And I think things like these restrictions on the sale of guns, they'll use, they'll say, oh, any emergency now, we're going to stop the sale of guns. And, the temperature went up to 98 degrees today, so we're having a heat advisory. We
Right.
need to stop the sale of guns. Everything will be an emergency. And, you know, we're going to have a lot of this. They're going to be
And
pushing hard to take our freedoms that they've managed to get a grip on. Go ahead.
nothing. I'm listening up.
Oh, please. I know you're gyrating over there, just getting ready to
No, I
vibrate off
just
the screen from
it's
frustration.
I don't the masses are not going to let that happen. How can you go from because also, there's so much relies on mass gathering, restaurants, weddings, hospitals, funerals, uh, fun runs, uh, marathons. How it has such a trickle. What you're just saying has such an explosive effect on all of the economy. Like they're talking about this recession. This isn't a recession. And I believe with the people that I know that if we went back, if everybody was allowed to go back to work within 30 days, everything would be fine. Everything would be fine. I mean, my bank is already doing, if you have a car payment, for people that have car payments, they're not going to take it out of your account for 60 days. If you have a mortgage and you choose to put those payments on the back end, you can call and they'll put the payments on the back end. I mean, banks are doing a lot of things to help people out. So I don't see this being a big recession. I see it being, I don't know, just a blip, I guess. And people will get back to work because if they start
Yes,
doing this, let's say we can only have 10 people at a time. Well, you're not going to have any restaurants, so then all those people are unemployed. You're not going to have big organized events, concerts. I mean, just think of why people gather. What are you going to do? Have a Rolling Stone concert with 10 people? Come on now. Everybody going to log on?
that
That's
would
not going to happen either.
that would be an intimate. Well, one thing I do see, there are some negatives with this, but I also see some positives. There's an explosive amount of college debt in this country for people getting degrees in exotic underwater basket weaving,
Right.
and they get out with $100,000 worth of debt and no job to justify that expense. So I think part of what's going to come out of this is they're going to see that you don't have to go to a massive university and spend hours of your day in classes that are irrelevant. And I can see people spending a lot more time getting educated at home to include K through 12. And I think some of the indoctrination that's happening by, putting the kids in cattle cars, running them to school, and then uh, speaking in Nazi Germany to them, they're going to lose that grip because kids they're going to find out after this thing a short time at home, these kids are a lot smarter because they're not getting indoctrinated. The parents that are teaching them at home are educating them. So
Right, because kids do
there
have
could be a big
questions.
change in that.
Yeah,
Right.
because kids have questions, and in
So
school, a
yeah,
lot of
you
time
can't
they can't.
question a teacher.
Right, right, right. And
Nope.
there's a guy on
So
Fox
that's
News.
one of the good things I'll say.
I think his name is Pete.
Go ahead.
There's a guy on commentator on Fox News, and I think his name is Pete. He was a SEAL, I think, and he's schooling his kids at home, and he's doing, of course, a fabulous job. He has all the resources afforded to a person. That is a bonus for him. But his kids are smart, and they're asking questions, and some of the questions, put him on his toes. He doesn't know how to answer it. He has to figure out how to answer it. And in a classroom setting, a public classroom setting, that's not happening. You're being taught to test. You have to take
Right.
this test to advance to this grade. We're going to teach to test. And that's what teachers do. And it's
Right.
very sad.
Yeah, it's memorization. They're just teaching them to memorize the words that they need, the answers they need for the test, and nothing else. We found that here where we live, the school always ended in March because that's when they did their testing. And then after that, it's what'd you do today in school? Oh, we watched a movie. You know, it's just once they get the test behind them, the school year is done. The teachers take a
Yeah.
break and the kids start watching movies and have cake parties in the room and stuff, and it's all over for another 2.5 or 3 months.
Yeah. But I will tell you the one good thing that I have found with this, we've imposed it on ourselves to stay home, Randy and I. We're getting a lot of stuff done. We are getting a lot of that stuff that for some reason we never seem to have time to get done. We are getting all that stuff done. So if there's anything positive to come out of this, uh, yeah, my house is lighter. We're getting rid of things, putting things where they're supposed, just doing all that stuff that it seems like we all put off for no good reason. So that is one positive thing on my end with this self-imposed isolation.
Well, that works out perfectly because while you're enjoying your self isolation now, it gives you a chance to get everything done at your place, and that way, when the cattle gates are opened and we're allowed out in the pasture again, you can have plenty of time to come over here and help get everything done at my place.
No
So
hable
it does work out
inglés.
pretty well.
What? What did you say?
Yeah, right.
No, no,
What kind of
senor,
name?
no,
No,
no, ese
tell me
no.
that. What was that name? All these foreign
Okay,
languages start belting out.
right, right.
Um, all right, I wanted to bring up something else here because we do have to kind of hit with some news because it can't be all opinion, even though my
Okay.
opinion counts. But no, ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee calls for investigation into China's cover-up and disinformation about the sniffles virus. According to CBS, Catherine Herridge, the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, has written a letter to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo calling for an investigation into China's cover-up of and disinformation of the campaign surrounding the Wuhan virus. So, yeah, China has some serious splaining to do. And I think that this was a planned event, but I think it went way beyond what they were expecting when they released it.
So you think China released this? So you think this is China getting at us, or the
Yeah.
Democrats trying to throw something else up against the wall, or?
Oh, it's a cabal. This is a world cabal. This isn't US versus them. It's the world cabal, the New World Order, the 13 bloodlines, the pinnacle of the pyramid going back to the black nobility, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Biltmores, the Bilderbergs. This is a world event. They want total global domination, and they were watching it slip away because their uber bitch, Hillary Clinton, didn't get elected, and she was going to finish the destruction of the only roadblock to the New World Order, and that is the United States of America. Part of the 16-year plan, Obama did half of the destruction, and she was supposed to finish it up, but she lost. So they needed something to continue their progress.
Just to play devil's advocate, let me ask you a question. And this is just, splitting hairs here. If they were so in charge, how did she lose? If they have control of the voting
Because there's
machines
an
and
organization. There is an organization of white
you
hats that are
froze.
out of Langley, Virginia. I froze, or did you freeze?
You're unfrozen now. You're unfrozen now.
What are we
Say
playing? Freeze
it again.
tag?
Say it again.
I said, what are we playing? Freeze tag?
No.
Okay,
So
so what were you saying?
if the cabal is as great, how did Hillary lose?
Because of an organization, a Navy and military intelligence out of Langley that managed to. Here's the deal, okay? If Hillary would have won, if they would have lost their battle they were doing in the background, then things at this point would be totally different because there would have been very, very likely a military coup on this country. The military would have seized the White House, and Hillary, being the psycho bitch that she is, would have encouraged other nations to attack us in defense of her position in the White House, and we would have been at a massive war. But the White Hats managed to unhack the hackers that were trying to manipulate voting, and they managed to keep control of things that normally are out of their control. And basically, they just got enough people behind them, and they took this thing over. They took control of it. That's why it came to such a massive surprise to Hillary when she lost, plus all of her followers. They knew they had it in the bag. It was no doubt in the world. And then they lost. And so that's when this war between the dark and the light started. And this is where we are now. They throw in this war, they are throwing a battle at us. We retaliate against that battle, and then we hit them with an offensive attack. They defend, and it's back and forth. But I think that we're in the position now where we're starting to get the upper hand, and I believe things will change. But I'm still skeptical because I see what's going on in the predominantly left-controlled areas being super psycho with their control mechanisms that they're putting in place. So there's still a lot of questions, bottom line.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you just said. I really do, because sometimes just trying to, I feel like I'm all over the map sometimes because, I believe China did start this, but, then there's motivation from other people. China doesn't care about its citizens. It doesn't care how many it kills. We don't really know how long it's
No,
been going on in China. We just know when they started reporting it. Why did
we have a
they?
pretty good idea.
Why did they even bother report it? That's the whole thing. If they really wanted to do a dastardly deed, shut up. I mean, that's your best thing, is to be quiet.
Well,
Hmm?
no, they needed it. They needed the hysteria. They needed it to get into the media because that's part of the global control. They needed the public to be absolutely mortified so that they would do whatever they were told to do. And the whole thing has got uh, one thing leads to another, and it's all part of a big campaign to control the masses. But the reason that this thing was so perfectly executed in that location is because in Wuhan they were celebrating their Lunar New Year, which happens to be the year of the rat.
Mm-hmm.
And they injected a potential plague into society. But there were people from all over the world visiting Wuhan for the Lunar New Year. So they knew that if they released it there, all the spider webs would open up and everybody would go back to their little hometowns and spread this thing like wildfire. So it really was a perfect location because they damn sure don't care about the people. It would actually benefit them to kill off 100 million of their own people. It would empower their uh, tyrannical government more. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to where they set it off and how they did it and when they did it.
You know the old crime whiteboards where you had your suspect in the middle, then all the string went off to all the different
Mhm.
scenarios. We need a whiteboard with string
Right.
to follow everything around.
We need a
Uh,
White House.
huh?
It
Yeah,
would
right.
take a it would take a warehouse big enough to put a board right in the middle, and it just spread it out throughout the warehouse. This thing has had 107 years, something like that, to get organized, and it goes back to 1913 when the criminals took over control of the country. And if they've had a long time to plant their people in the places that they need them, so rooting them all out at once is not going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, but I get
But
very,
one thing I would like to ask, yeah, very well. Go ahead.
no, you would like to ask.
Well, I didn't want to change the subject till you were done, but I want to know what the hell does opening an indictment against Nicolas Maduro have to do with the criminals in this country? I listened to the briefing from the Justice Department on this whole scenario with opening this indictment on Maduro, and they went through a list of the crimes that they've committed, the corruption that's so deep in their country. They just wrote out a list, and the only thing that was missing was United States of America across the top instead of Venezuela, because everything they were saying is like, well, duh, stupid. It's exactly the same way surrounding you guys where you stand. So I don't know. It's just some of the stuff that's happening makes me kind of go, what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
so what were you saying?
somebody just commented on here, 1-2 Bravo, Georgia, after all this shelter in place will be the new default. And I was thinking that the other day, it's like this is going to become kind of common. Oh, we have a shelter in place order for the next 5 days. It flashed across my mind, and it flashed in that way like, yep, this is something that's going to start happening more frequently. I don't say every month or every quarter or anything like that, but it will be something that I think our grandchildren might find commonplace. Oh, we have a shelter in place order, you know? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, one thing to keep an eye on when that happens, if that's the case, is does that shelter in place coincide with the desire to pass a very unfavorable bill?
See, and
Will
I
there
don't
be
know
a
how.
minor emergency, a shelter in place?
Oh, okay. Yeah, something
Go ahead.
to move our attention off of what's going on. But your attention only gets moved if you don't watch C-SPAN. I don't know how that even works. I mean, because you can watch their dumb behinds up there on the TV doing absolutely nothing and prattling on about nonsense. I mean, we can watch all that. I don't
Right.
I don't understand sometimes.
Yeah, but they do a lot of stuff in the background while you're watching it. They don't do everything in front of the public eye. They do a lot of it in the dark because they don't want the public to know about it. You can see what's in it when you sign it, type of thing. Censor Wars, how you doing? Mr. Dingleberry, welcome. And Lenny, what is that one? Lenny something rather. I just saw the name, but now I can't get my cursor to move. Move. Lenny Cano, I guess, or no. Welcome to everybody, all of you. Um, yeah, there's going to be more questions than answers, and we got a long ways to go through all of this. But also, I don't know if you've heard about the rumor of a blackout on any kind of media. The talk is that from the 30th of March through the 10th of April, we won't have cell phone, TV, internet, or anything of the above, and that the only thing that's going to be available is the emergency broadcast system, which will be running 24 hours a day with messages from the White House and staff members. I've heard this now for months, and it may or may not happen, but it's just one of those things that's in the air, and a lot of people are in agreement. But then I start seeing little signs of the fact that it may be fact, because we're hearing about it being shut off on the 30th of March, and now we're all locked in our homes. So the internet companies are saying, "Oh, we're being strained. we can't keep up with the broadband demand. We're having blackouts throughout the country. So they're already talking their narrative, getting ready for it to shut off with an excuse saying, oh, well, this was because everybody was online and we couldn't hold up the infrastructure wouldn't hold up to that much use. So they have their out. Their excuse is established. Then you go over to television and you've got the lamestream media saying, we don't want to show the presidential COVID-19 briefings anymore because he's not telling you the truth. And we think it's our responsibility to protect the American people from the information that's being given to them falsely by our president. So they're giving their excuse to not show him.
That's treasonous.
It is, but this is what I'm saying. So the internet will go down because they said they can't handle it, and the TV will go off because the president will be forced into a position where he has to get the message out, and the media is refusing to allow it to happen. So everybody's got a reason for not having their internet, their TV, and then the cell phones will be probably they'll blame it on a failed launch of 5G or something like that. But either way, I've heard enough about it to make me question and wonder, is this coming? So
yeah,
there's the
and
question.
All I know is that
scenario.
letter that I sent you, that my friend that does all the, the fiber and the towers and all that, he got that pass letter that lets him into any area in the country that he wants to go. And that's typically something he only gets after a devastating hurricane, or a really bad earthquake or something like that, where the systems have all gone down. So that's just too much to think about sometimes. I have walkie-talkies though. I have those 40-mile range walkie-talkies. I do have those, or whatever they're called, those little radios.
We picked up Lisa and I picked up a couple of ham radios before we went to Virginia in case they did a block out of communication there. So those are pretty handy. But it'll be interesting if this happens because of the potential blackout, if the emergency broadcast system is used, some very inconvenient truths are going to be brought to the American people. And, if they have to use what they call it, Insurrection Act or whatever, I can't remember exactly what it is, but they may have to quell some uprisings that will be instigated and financed by the upper echelon of the cabal, like Jorge Soros or George Soros. But, it could be, we could be going through hell in the next few days, but people just have to keep their head about them and, stay where you need to be to protect you and yours.
Yeah. Yeah, make your circle a little bit smaller.
COVID-19 being contagious. Right. Trust the people that you've got within it. Eagle Talon says, with COVID-19 being highly contagious and asymptomatic, not knowing you have it and not being sick, this will most likely get worse before it gets better. I myself expect to get not that I want to. It is contagious, but you have to look at the sheer numbers because most of the people that are getting this thing, I mean, they're annoyed by it, but that's the extent of it. There's a very small number that are ending up in critical situations, and usually that's because of other things involved too. Brownouts, what I was told. Brownouts, Michael Lowe says brownouts is what I was told. Yeah, I mean, there are variations of the information, but what I've been getting is that it is going to be an absolute communication blackout. And part of that is so that a single controlling source can get the prudent information out without competition from fake news and governors that are trying to scare their people out of taking medication to help them through a sickness So it's downright dangerous out there when you have scientists saying, yes, this medication has been safe for years, it's been used, and then you have governors with no science background saying, this is dangerous, it's going to kill you people, stay the hell away from it. Um,
I can tell you
Phil
something
C.
about
It just went dark for like 11 days a little while ago. What's up?
my father takes a lot of medicine, and he usually gets it in 90-day supplies. And when my mother had it delivered from the pharmacy the other day, they're only doing 30 days at a time. They're not doing 90 days right now.
Yeah. That's because all of our medication comes from India and China. We're
Is
going to
that
be
not
in a very
something?
bad way pretty soon. Yeah. India's already said they're not going to be sending medication out of their country, which really creates a problem because that's where the chloroquine is made, or at least that's what I've heard. So there could be a real significant issue with India, even though they're supposed to be one of our best allies. So we'll have to see about that.
I don't know. I don't know. It's all interesting times. Interesting times.
Yeah. I just keep an eye on things and see how it goes. But we're at our hour. We're a little over. So I think we've probably rattled their ears enough this afternoon.
I'm
Hopefully,
sure. I'm sure.
helped get some more useful information out. Yeah.
It's an
Well,
honor to have
I enjoy
people
everybody
even
hanging out.
listen. I
So,
mean, it's an honor.
right. Thank you, Silent Serenity or Silent Century. Appreciate that lemon over there on D Live. Excuse me. Anybody who joined me over there on Facebook, it's just about impossible to see if there's anybody there. But if you're over there, I'm waving my hand at you right there, and on my D Live. I appreciate everybody that has joined me over there on D Live. All the lemons and the ice creams and everything makes me hungry. Um, if you haven't joined my D Live, and I actually can find where my cursor went, I would like to put this into the chat here for a second. And if you haven't joined my D Live, I would really beg of you to do so, because at some point when YouTube does not work, I will continue my streaming on D Live. So I'm trying to get everybody to jump over there and join me over there. Yeah, if you're watching me on Facebook and you don't have me on YouTube, that would be another option, or D Live as well. Um, Go to YouTube under Disabled Vets Perspective, just like my name right there under my picture, and join the YouTube page, and then all my links are under my YouTube videos, and you can go over and hit D Live, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, with that being said, did you want to say anything on the way out, Miss Belinda?
Just thanks everybody for watching, and especially listening to me prattle on with my absolutely opinionated self.
We love it when you prattle. It just adds so much enthusiasm to all of this.
I'm sure.
All right. So with that being said, thank you to all my mods. Appreciate you guys keeping the house in order, and everybody that chose to hang out with us for the last hour and 5 minutes. I thank you all. God bless you all. And until next time, y'all, stay in the fight.